and I will switch to English. So, warm welcome to everyone. Thanks for coming to this WICK. And today we are continuing in a chain of wonderful speakers that we are very privileged to have. And so let me just, without further ado, introduce Dirk Ahlborn, who is the CEO of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, and the man Andres, who's leading the European section. So thank you guys very much for coming. We are looking forward to being inspired by your story. Thank you.
So, we don't get a cake? All right, so, yeah, really cool to meet you guys. I'm Dirk. I'm the CEO of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, and yeah, we're building the Hyperloop. So, traveling at the speed of sound. I think that sounds amazing. What do you think? Awesome. So, what's a Hyperloop? Who here actually really knows what a Hyperloop is? I'll tell you. Okay. Well, for everybody else, we have a little video that explains the history, but it shows a little bit how we started, where we are right now, and a little bit where we're going. Well, enjoy.
America's always been a nation of doers. We build things, we take risks, and we believe that if you have a good idea and are willing to work hard enough, you can turn that idea into a successful business.
Billionaire philanthropist Elon Musk has hinted at a new high-speed transport system that could put planes and trains out of business.
I have a name for it, which is called a Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop? Mr. Musk's plan? Move people using a massive vacuum tube combined with a magnetic levitation system. Kind of like a Jetsons tunnel?
It's something like that, yeah.
Here's how he teased the idea in May at an All Things D conference.
It's a cross between a Concorde and a railgun.
It's called the Hyperloop. It's a system of giant suspended tubes. Riding within are capsules carrying people or freight travelling on cushions of air at speeds of up to 1,200 k's per hour, or roughly 1 kilometre every 3 seconds.
A tube that would be on pillars from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and inside there would be capsule cars that would be rocketed forward up to 700 miles an hour, and that there would be a fan on the front. Elon Musk basically says that this is the way of the future.
How would you like something that can never crash, it is immune to weather, it goes 3 or 4 times faster than the sort of bullet train, and it would cost you much less than an air ticket.
It would only cost to build this $6 or $7 billion. Compare that to the $65 billion for the current high-speed rail plans for California. He believes this is a viable, valuable alternative for mass transit between these two destinations.
Could something like the Hyperloop actually be the answer to super fast, environmentally friendly, high-speed travel between our busiest cities? So the gauntlet has been thrown down. A design document for a whole new, super cool way to travel. The only thing now, will someone pick it up and make the Hyperloop a reality?
There are some companies that are forming to try to make the Hyperloop happen, and encourage them. I think that's great. I'm super focused on Tesla and SpaceX, and to small amount on Solar City, so that basically completely uses up my brain.
Tesla founder Elon Musk proposed this new technology called Hyperloop, and it's being developed right now in Playa Vista, here in this hangar behind me.
The only resistance would be the air in front of the capsule, which we move to the deck by using a compressor.
Company Hyperloop has teamed up with the students to create this tube technology that's designed to connect cities up to 400 miles apart. Dirk Ahlborn says it's safer and more efficient than the railroad.
Well, the system is completely computerized, so you optimize the system, and then you actually have the humans to monitor it. In railroads, most accidents were all human factors. Plus, a lot of the derailments are actually happened because something's on the track. So we are in a closed system, we're completely managed by the computer system. There's no human factor that can actually create those issues. We actually plan on seeing the first Hyperloop very, very soon starting.
Can you imagine and walk us through what it might be like to travel at the speed of sound?
It's not going to be much different than sitting in an airplane, actually. Obviously, for us, it's very important to make it as good of an experience as possible. So this is an independent organization that has formed. We have 170 engineers, scientists, and really great professionals with amazing backgrounds.
The race is on. Elon Musk's vision for a high-speed passenger pods known as the Hyperloop is one step closer to becoming reality this morning. One of the known companies competing to capitalize on Musk's proposal, announcing today it has struck a deal with landowners in Central California to build the first full-scale Hyperloop along a 5-mile stretch along I-5, with construction set to begin in 2016.
Let's bring in Dirk Ahlborn, who is the man who runs the Hyperloop Transportation Technologies team, which is announcing this deal with Quay Valley, California. Dirk, tell me about this deal and really when you expect this Hyperloop, this 5-mile stretch to be finished.
Quay Valley is supposed to be breaking ground beginning of 2016. That's when we will start working on our development. So we will be starting ground at the same time. At this moment, we expect to be done by 2018.
Hyperloop now appears one step closer to reality. Starting next year, that theory will turn into a groundbreaking in Quay Valley, Kings County off of I-5. A developer there has just committed a big chunk of his private land toward the project. It's a 5-mile loop that would take visitors through a planned entertainment district.
There's going to be a test track. Elon Musk has announced that he's going to build a small-scale test track. It's a necessary step for us to be building a full-scale version, and Quay Valley is a sustainable model town of the 21st century, so it's a perfect fit. They're expecting over 10 million visitors per year, so we will actually be able to generate revenues very, very fast.
The company plans to go public later this year.
We want to do a public offering. We want to give our community that's supporting us the possibility to own parts of the company. We want to make sure that the people that have been helping building the company and this technology are able to participate in the investment and the fundraising and the upside of the company.
With their contributions to Hyperloop, these students from around the world now have stock options in the company. But they say they're not in it for the money.
As a student, I start to feel like I'm in part of some great career that might change the world.
Will the Hyperloop kill the railroad?
The Hyperloop is going to do to the US what the railroads did in the 1800s. So it will change the way we live. It's possible today, it's based on existing technologies, and it's the right time, it's the right moment to finally get something doing like this.
Is it visionary? In 30 years' time, will you and I be sitting on our rocking chairs going, well, we talked about it then, and we did it?
So you think this is possible? This is not just...
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
For all those who said this is just a neat little thing to draw on a cocktail napkin, these guys are saying it will become reality.
All right. So those were... So those were basically 2.5 years put together in 4 or 5 minutes. Big piece is actually missing, right? Who knows what's missing? Exactly, Slovakia is missing, right? We still have to add that. So, again, what is a Hyperloop? So imagine a capsule filled with people, right? Hovering inside a tube, okay? Moving really, really fast from one point to the other. Inside this tube, you create a low pressure environment. So basically, you have vacuum pumps that take out the air. And now the capsule, right, just like an airplane that goes into really high altitudes, can travel much faster with much less energy because it doesn't encounter any resistance. There's nothing in there anymore. The whole system is completely powered by alternative energy. So we're using solar, wind, kinetic energy through regenerative braking, and in some climates geothermal to produce more energy than we're actually using. So this is a very important part, not because it's green. Okay? That's two if you want so, but to be honest, when we talk about business, most people don't care if anything's green. So if you want to change the world and move it over into using alternative energy, you have to find the reason why, where it's better, for example. So here in this case, we're producing more energy than we're using, which allows us to have very low operational costs, which means that the system is actually very cheap to operate. Okay? There's a big problem everywhere in the world. It's, and for some reason, nobody has ever really worked on it. And that is that every single train, every metro system in the world, depends on subsidies by the government. There's not one that's profitable. Can you imagine that? There's not one train in the world that actually makes money. They're all paid by tax money. So it's great that I think here in Slovakia, students using it for free, right? So that's even more tax money. But I get to that a little bit later because there are some other things that you could do. The system is on pylons, which has the advantage that we only need to buy the land of the pylons. We don't need to buy everything. So normally when they build a route, when they build a street, when they build a train, and you own the land, right? They take all the land on the ground. And being on pylons also has the advantage that in areas like in California, where we have a lot of earthquakes, we actually can integrate the latest technology against earthquakes, the latest building technology. So we actually built already pipelines back in the 70s that have withstand earthquakes from 8.0 on the Richter scale. Okay, so it can be much, much safer than when you're on the ground. It also has another big advantage. You get from one side to the other, which seems stupid, but actually, again, if you own the land and they decide that here they're going to build a train or a street, they just cut through. And if if there's no way to get to the other side of your land, they don't really care. They tell you to figure it out or to swap with your neighbor, for example. Well, you all know probably a lot of times neighbors don't really get along, right? So capacity is something that comes up a lot. People are actually worried. So now we can travel really, really fast from one point, from one city to the other. Can we actually move enough people? Well, the good thing is that we are making money. So for us, running out of capacity is actually the best thing that can happen because we're going to make more money. And we can over-engineer the pylons in a way that we can actually add several lines, several tubes. So this is a very early design, but it just, I think, shows very well how you can just add on to the system. All right, but why should we actually care? Why should we build something like the Hyperloop? This is why. Maybe not exactly a picture of Bratislava.
Friday afternoon.
But where I come from in LA, for example, this is pretty normal. So traffic is actually one of the biggest problems that we have. We are losing time, we're losing productivity, we're sitting in traffic, right? We're not doing anything. We're away from the people that we care about. And based on where you live, you decide where you work, right? Based on where you live, you also decide who you date. Oh no, if she lives on the other side of Bratislava, it takes you an hour and a half to go. Are you going to date her? Not even going to work out, right? That's another reason. Beijing on a sunny day. On a bad day, you don't see your hand in front of your face. I think it's something like an hour in Beijing is like smoking a package of cigarette or so. And it's really, really bad. You feel it. I've been there several times, and you can really feel it. But pollution is not only a problem that we have in China or in India. Actually, everywhere in the world, people are dying before they should, just because of pollution. So traffic is part of that. It's not all the problem. But on average, I think in Europe, you will die 14 months before it would normally be time. just because of pollution. So definitely something we should work on, I think. That's another reason. Traveling sucks. It's bad. I don't know, anybody enjoys traveling here? Not getting to the destination, huh? You enjoy standing in line at the airport with all the people? Really? I don't. I think that, so, but, you know, I think I'm still quite young. And so I haven't really lived a time when traveling wasn't still an experience. People tell me it used to be actually great, right? We used to enjoy it. It was like something you were looking forward to go around, move around. Well, now it's not that anymore, but it should be. And then there's this. The train industry, public transportation industry, is actually a dinosaur industry. They're really, really old. We haven't innovated for, I don't know, ever. Maglev, which is the latest technology, was invented in the 1930s in Germany. The first prototype was done in the 70s in Germany. And that's like, it's not even an innovation. I mean, at the end, the train still looks the same way like when they started. So, we're still building old systems when today we can actually build something much more cheaper. For an example, the rail. This is how we build rail in Europe right now. So roughly 1.43.5 meters is the distance. Anybody knows, besides the people that were there yesterday, what defines the distance? The Roman carriage. So basically, the butts of the horses. That's how today, when we build a train, we decide how we build a train. I think that's that. And if you would actually make it larger, you could transport more people, safer and faster. The only ones are actually France and Spain that started in the high-speed trains to make them larger, but everywhere else today it's still built in the same way. Money is another issue, like I said earlier, so we're continuously losing money. To give you guys an example, the metro in Los Angeles, where I live, makes 76 cents per passenger. And taxpayers are paying $2.50. So now people can say, well, but LA, nobody uses the metro, everybody drives by car, correct. But New York, I think one of the top metros as an example, is still losing 82 cents per passenger, which makes $2.2 billion a year. The taxpayers have to put on top of it because people are moving. And the same problem you have in Bratislava, the same problem you have in Germany. Germany spends, so I'm actually, to be very honest with you, I'm trying right now to figure out how much money, because the German railway says 17 billion, the German government says 5. Okay, still a lot of money in any case. But that's, I think, the biggest problem and the biggest opportunity. Because why do we have a really bad train system? Why don't we have a metro, for example, in Bratislava? Because it's not only about spending the money to build it, it costs a lot of money to maintain it. So you have to continue putting it into the budget. And that's the biggest problem for me to solve, and the biggest opportunity. But how would it actually change our lives if we would have something like the Hyperloop where we can move really, really fast in an economical way, and you know, it actually would be a business model? Well, first of all, airports. Airports, big problem, they're overflowing, they need to build continuously more. I mean, look how many airports there are in London. So now you can connect those airports and they actually can become single terminals. Right? You don't need to have single airports anymore. You can also build airports further out of the city, because even if they're 100, 150 kilometers away, it's only minutes to the city center. We can live in nicer places. Maybe again, not a problem you have in Bratislava, but in Los Angeles, if you want to buy a house under $1 million where you're not getting shot, it's really, really hard. So if you want to have your kids play in the front yard without having to choose the gang colors, it's, you know, you really have to look or you have to move somewhere else. So, obviously, connecting cities, right? Same thing. Bratislava, Vienna. If you can be in Vienna within 10 minutes, how is your life going to change? Where are you going to live? Where are you going to work? Where are your friends going to be? Basically, it brings cities stronger together. That's a big opportunity. So, sounds all great, but how are we actually doing this? From the technology part, it's actually not that difficult. So all the technology is already existing. You guys, I mean, I'm sure you're much better in technology than me, and only the computers that we have in our pockets are incredible. The other day I saw a robotic butterfly. I've seen a monkey that wasn't able to walk anymore, being able to walk just with a chip. I mean, we can really do amazing things. So here it's actually much, much easier. We know how to build pylons, we know how to build tubes, we've done those things. We have created a vacuum inside the tube. Actually, this is a picture of the CERN Hadron Collider in Switzerland. And the company that's creating that vacuum inside those tubes, which are exactly the same diameter as a Hyperloop, is actually part of our team. So basically, we already built a Hyperloop, but it moves particles, not people. Right? Another very important part is alternative energy. So luckily, just like in cell phone chips, right, every year a new cell phone comes out and gets better and better, alternative energy has the same advantage. Every year we're getting better and better, energy is getting cheaper and cheaper. So already today with the latest technology, in California at least, we're covering all the energy needs completely with solar panels. In addition, we have wind, kinetic energy, and well, in 3-4 years, it's going to look even better and continue to look better. So that's one of the largest advantages I see. But the main difference is actually that we are using a completely new way of building a company. And that's probably the part that I'm personally most passionate about. So I'm sure, actually no, I'm not so sure, but some people might know these companies. They all have something in common. So who here knows Blockbuster? Oh, can you explain the rest of everybody what Blockbuster did?
Yeah, well, basically it was some kind of a video rental where you went and you just rented movies, but now it's over because you can just download.
So it's basically the Netflix of my times, right? Well, they all have something in common. They're all failures. I don't know if anybody here has a BlackBerry? In the South? Like, what is that, Cosmic?
As a toy for a child.
So, just because obviously they're still there, they can still save the company, but for me right now, they're here. Facebook doesn't work on the BlackBerry anymore, apparently. Then there are these kind of companies. They all have something in common as well. All of these companies, at one point of the history, actually were in trouble and switched over integrating something called crowdsourcing. Right? So they work with their communities, they work with their customers. Some of these companies have more than 50% of the innovation coming from the outside. Lego, I'm sure you're all familiar with, actually it was almost bankrupt. They switched the CEO, the new CEO integrated crowdsourcing into the company, and today it's one of the most successful toy companies out there. So if you have an idea for a Lego product, you can submit it, the community votes on it. That's really how they innovate and invent new products. So when we talk not only about a train or a metro system, that's being done behind closed doors, right? You have no idea what's happening. When I'm here, I hear a lot about the highway, for example. Same thing, right? You hear there's something to be built, you don't know, there's no transparency, you have no idea what's happening, if there are problems, how you can help. And that's exactly what we change. We do something that we call crowdstorming. And crowdstorming means that we talk with the community, with the general public. And we want to hear your opinions, we want to hear your ideas, we ask questions, people can join the team. And it's things like, so we ask something like, do we need a ticket? And not only do we need a paper ticket, but basically, I mean, your whole generation doesn't want to pay for anything anymore, right? Everything's free. I mean, when I was a kid, programs, actually later, but when we had to, buy something, either you had to download them somewhere, or they were very expensive, for example, to use. Today, I mean, Google Drive, Facebook, everything's free. You can use everything. And somehow these companies are managing to make billions of dollars, right? And it's the same thing here. So a ticket was something that worked in the 1800s. But how about if we find another way? Because if we find a way that we make more money, the more the passenger uses the capsule, right? Then a ticket is negative. Then we would use the ticket only to regulate demand. It means at 9 a.m., well maybe 8:30 in Slovakia, when a lot of people want to travel, it costs some money, but at 6, it's free. Okay? And the company makes money in other ways. Advertising, big data, upselling of services, whatever it might be. And those are actually things where we want to have ideas, right? We want to hear what people can come up with, and we're continuously learning. Or things like, if I look at the cost overall of what we're building, I see that a big cost are pylons. So we ask the question, if I would give you 200 pylons, they're yours. You can do whatever you want with them. What are you going to do? So it's just asking the question that makes a difference, because people start thinking, and you get some really crazy ideas and some really great ones. Things like, hey, we actually have a problem with bees. Why don't we use them as beehives as well? Or how about vertical gardening? Or, for example, something that we're actually working on, it's a technology coming out of Germany, of the Fraunhofer Institute. We can produce water out of air, basically the air humidity, with the same components that we're using for the Hyperloop. Or yesterday, I did exactly the same thing, and I asked, and a Slovakian scientist told me, you know what, there's a material that you can put into the pylons that can store energy. And it's not more expensive than anything else, but you can store heat, you can recall it whenever you want. Those are exactly the things, right? Because now we can store energy. Obviously, you could charge your Tesla or whatever other electric car you might own, right? It can be electric charging station. So it's just about this process, right? Let's think about what can we do different? Why does it have to be? Like, really, I think the most important question is always why. Why do we need to build it the same way we have always built it? Who decided that? Why is nobody thinking about it? Why do we have so much concrete around and are not doing anything with it? Is there a possibility to turn that into revenue? Okay. So, normally I continue the presentation, but what I would love with you guys, a little bit at least, is, so we want to build a transportation system in Bratislava. You are the younger generation. You think completely different from me. Completely different. How old were you when you had your first computer? Sorry?
I can't remember. I can't remember.
You can't remember. Okay, and most of you. I can tell you the day, I can tell you what I did, okay, because I was pretty old. And that's exactly the difference. Like today, you guys, you're born connected. Okay, kids that are born today have a Facebook account before they're even born. So you're online constantly. Okay, she's on the phone, the two phones, look at that. Really, I mean, taking in content continuously. So basically, she's listening to me while she's looking at two phones constantly. On average, your generation consumes 30 hours of content a day. Okay, 30 hours. So you think completely different from how I think. So I would love to hear from you guys, how should the transportation system of Bratislava, and not in the future, but tomorrow, look like? What are technologies that you have seen that should be integrated? Or what are things that you think are important? Anybody? I'm just going to start over there and go through. So you can, come on guys, no ideas? What's important for you guys in a transport system? How would you like to move around?
Putting in the work with my body, like I like to move around, doing sports, like bicycling, longboarding, I would like to do that.
Okay, awesome. So you want to pull?
Yeah.
All right. So the way I read what you're saying is, for example, if I give you options where I say, this is a perfect way of moving around, but if you walk this station, you're still getting, or if you walk this way, you're still arriving at the same time, but you actually can get a workout in.
Yeah.
And you consume that amount of calories, right? So physical activity is important. Awesome. Anybody else? That's what I can going up earlier.
Personal space.
Personal space? For you or for you and your girlfriend? Alright, so I
cannot provide a girlfriend.
So I agree with you. I mean, for sure, you know, sitting in there and having these tiny spaces, obviously. So there's actually, in our case, we have a business class where obviously you have a little bit more space. It's not going to cost that much more, but and then there's an economy class. But even there, I mean, I'm pretty big and I want to sit in a normal seat as well. So perfect. More?
Safety.
Safety. You want to be safe?
Yeah.
So safe from him or safe from me?
No, from I don't know. Many people are afraid from flying, and this will make them feel confident.
So you want to feel safe?
Yeah.
You want to feel safe in terms of the technology, or are you afraid? Are we talking terrorism? Or are we talking technology?
Both, maybe.
Okay. So perfect. Those are actually important parts that we are integrating in both areas. I think terrorism is always a big problem, right? And in general, bad people do bad things. So, but that's, you know, to be honest with you guys, that's actually something I would like you to do that could really help us. If you guys can, you know, think about, first of all, how and where you would like a transportation system here, because those are the things that we want to hear. And on the other hand, technologies that you have seen or that you can imagine that can change your world. So I give you a couple of examples of things that we are actually working on. Okay, so floors, for example, that show you, that have display technology integrated and know where you are. You're identified at the beginning, so you know who you are, and we can give you information directly in front of your feet. We can say, okay, you know, the train is that way, and toilet's here. Maybe your friend Marek is over there, and obviously there's an advertising component integrated where we can make sure that it's being financed that way. Or we have a technology where we clean out the air from, we're using graphene, which is a new material, where we are able to clean the air from smells, from bacteria, and from viruses. So most people actually have a problem with touching surfaces on a plane because it's the dirtiest thing that you can imagine. Or maybe someone's coughing behind you and you're like, oh, that's it. next week I'm not working. Or someone maybe needs to shower more often. So those are the problems, and those are things that we are solving, but they're not the only ones. There's a lot of more, and we obviously, if you have seen anything, let us know, okay? You had something.
Like library, I said, and then stuff to do there,
Okay, so entertainment, I would probably say. I love to eat too, as you can see. It's, so learning. All right. Okay.
Maybe you should create some corner for mothers with babies, because it's always annoying when there is a crying baby that can't be fed because his mother is too ashamed to put her breast out and just it's really great.
Well, I think it goes a little bit into the personal space, right? But I agree. I mean, personally, I think that there's a lot of social work that needs to be done that people actually understand that's the most natural thing in the world. But yeah, definitely good. It's actually a really great idea. I like it. So we could have them travel for free in the business class, right? If you have a child that's still being fed, just go in. It doesn't really make a difference. All right, so let's just continue a little bit, but that would be really great. So you would really help us. So everybody always talks about the Hyperloop as an idea from Elon Musk. So it turns actually out that the idea is much older. Already in the 1800s, there was a project in America they wanted to build a tube between New York and San Francisco, and they started building the first station and the first line. And it was like something like the first subway. So basically it would move these capsules through the pressure difference through the tubes. Then the first patent was actually done in 1904 by a rocket scientist called Robert Goddard. Pretty old, right? That has been around for quite some time. It's a patent about a train inside a vacuum tube. In the 1960s, the Secretary of Transportation of the US said that tube travel would change the way people live in America. And they had two projects that they were financing actually to build tube travel. Then we have the Jetsons. There was a project in Switzerland called Swiss Metro, which actually used normal trains. They built tunnels and created a low-pressure environment. The Simpsons had the same idea. And then there was Elon Musk. So all of these basically didn't happen. Mainly because they were depending on one company, one country. These kind of projects are really, really difficult because they're large infrastructure projects. So they need, support. And government change, finance model change. So for us, when we started, it was really clear that what we needed to do is not build a company, but build a movement. Okay, so I was part of a non-profit incubator that was funded by NASA. And we were working on finding a new way of building companies. So basically today, we do everything online. You get your dry cleaning online, you buy your groceries online, you find your boyfriend, girlfriend online, right? You even can get divorced online in America. But when it comes to building a company, it's still you with a buddy and a beer in a bar. And you start talking about ideas, maybe you start working on it. 6 months later, you realize nobody cares about your product. Nobody has the same problem you have. Or, yeah, it was a cool idea, but you actually have not found out how to make money on it. That's one of the biggest problems that people have. So it's very, very hard to start a business. But how about if you have, let's say, 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people? that are passionate about the same things you are, that have the same interests, right? We're talking about the whole world. So, I mean, literally everything you can imagine, there's at least, 100 people that are really into this as well. If you get these people, and you can start out with your mom, your dad, your uncles, your cousins, and so on, and they give you their honest opinions, right? Their ideas, their connections, help you with tasks, you can build a better company. So basically what we have done is we have used open source methods to build a commercial viable company. So taking people from all over the world, the best people that are around the world, and working with them, only through passion. So Elon Musk proposed the idea back in 2013 in August, and he said he didn't want to do it because he was too busy with Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City. He wanted someone else to pick it up. It was the same time as when we basically brought in beta this platform. So we saw the project and said, hey, this would be awesome. Let's see if the community wants to work on it. And we asked for permission, got it onto the platform, and asked our community, hey, should we be working on this? And the community not only said, hey, you should do this, but they said, I want to be part of this. So I want to be working on this as well. So what we did is we created a company, got a small team together, and then said, everybody who would like to join and work in exchange for stock options, so participation in the company, please apply. We had over 200 applications, got a team together of around 100 engineers, and started working on the feasibility study. We finished the feasibility study at the end of 2014. Okay. Today, the company, we are more than 520 people, plus 40 companies, and some of them are the largest companies in the world. So AECOM is the largest construction engineering firm in the world. They're in the top 500 in America. Oerlikon Leibold invented the vacuum pump in Germany. We work with many more, from augmented reality to technology companies to construction companies. So, and actually very soon a lot of Slovakian companies as well. Okay, so let me trying to finish run through. So, obviously, after we said, hey, this is doable, there's now a lot of people that want to make money on it as well. So there's other companies trying to do the same thing, which I think is great, it's part of a movement. So why am I telling you this? Obviously, I want you to join the right company in case you want to join. But I also think it's very interesting to see how this is going to change. So we have a bunch of videos here about the people that are joining and are part of the team, because we have really amazing guys from Facebook, Spotify, NASA, SpaceX, and so on. Again, I just got to go over it. We get more than 5 new applications every single day. And these people are actually not only saying that they're bringing time, but they're also willing to bring money. So we work with universities, research institutes, everywhere, all around the world. So the most important part that I actually care about here is to explain you guys. I mean, you're supposed to build businesses, in my opinion, right? Because how Lucia says, IBM is not going to be the best solution. By the way, so we are in Slovakia because of her. All right, so I think she should have an applause. She was studying in America and she really wanted to join the team. So she applied to my business partner who didn't answer her message. She applied through Facebook, which there's the other message box, so I'll have them check that one. But when she came back to Slovakia, she started working in the ministry. And then she said, if I can't work on making Hyperloop happening over there, how about I work on make it over here? And start talking to the minister and started talking to everybody in the ministry, and they got interested. So then we met in America when they came over there, and that's how it all started. So just to make you understand how important one person can be, right? So she is probably in Slovakia, at least for us, the most important person. Anyways, there's more in the presentation about where we're going to build it. There's a little bit about experience and digital. We have a video about the screens and the experience we're doing with augmented reality, where we use face tracking and head tracking, so that you can really experience a new world, because we simulate a window, just as an example. So, but I know you probably gotta go back to school, so we can just cut it here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Time for 2 more questions. Can we offer that?
No, but is the problem that they have to go back to school, or that I have to go somewhere?
You are meeting the mayor, I heard.
Okay, but let's wait. Let's have the mayor wait for a moment and talk to him. I think they're more important than the mayor.
So, questions?
Oh, it looks like we're on time for the mayor.
So you mentioned that there have been many attempts to create this tube, and how do we know that you are the right company to succeed in this?
What is right? No, I mean, no, keep it. So, first of all, I don't, again, as I said earlier, it's not a technology problem. The reason why these failed was because they were depending on one country, for example. So, if you start out and you want to do something like this in America, it probably takes you 20 years, okay? If we would have talked 4 months ago, I would have told you in America and in Europe, almost impossible. Today, okay, after we came here and we talked to the Slovakian government and the people that are, by the way, very young inside the Slovakian government that makes things happen, I'm actually convinced that we can make it happen here as well, because Slovakia wants to be innovative, so they want to show you that you can do big things and that you can create companies. And, but in general, for us, the way we are as a company, I mean, we have the whole world. So we are not tied to trying to do it in Switzerland, trying to do it in the United States. I can do it in Indonesia, I can do it in China, I can do it in Africa, I can do it, So it's about this movement that I talked earlier about. We are not depending on money. Money is not our problem. I have more than 500 of the brightest people in the world, top companies, everybody's working because they're passionate about the project, not because they're getting paid. That's a big difference. And then the question is really, do you want to see it?
I want to see it underwater.
You want to see it what?
Underwater.
Underwater.
See another question? Thank you.
It's doable, but it's for shorter distances. It's actually. I have a company. If you want to finance it, we can.
I just wanted to ask. So I'm imagining that it's going to travel from California to New York, for example. And when will it gain, or how long will it take to gain like the highest speed possible? So will it be able to make stops like every, I don't know how many kilometers, or will it just try to be like take as further as possible, but more quickly than making stops?
So the system is actually more for like city to city rather than from one side of the continent to the other. So ideally, I think the times right now are roughly around 40 minutes to an hour, and that has to do with the technology used in the batteries at this moment, for example, that we're using for propulsion. But you can obviously, just like a metro, change and move on, so you get over to the other side. In terms of getting up to speed, so acceleration is 1g. And in math class, you can now go and calculate how long it's going to take to get up to 1,220 kilometers an hour. Right? Make it fun. But it's not about speed. So speed is one of the advantages. Again, the most important part is actually that it makes economical sense, that you have an energy balance that makes sense. So if you use it as a local system, as a metro, for example, you don't get up to speed. You don't need to get up to speed. When there's a curve, when you're going through the hills, you don't go up to speed because it's important that you have the comfort. So you always, I think that the first thing is comfort, right? It has to be something that you're enjoying using, and it's not a roller coaster ride. Then it's about, obviously, cost and speed. So, time is an important part, but you need to be very straight in order to get up to speed. But then it goes actually fairly fast.
Right, I'm afraid that this might be the end of our time, although I do have one more question.
The mayor is your boss, right?
So, because I coordinate the graduates of this school, people who have moved on and gone on to study at unis or work, and they actually go together and form one question that they would like to ask you. And so some of these are already becoming these experts that we talked about. And they're asking, looking back at Slovakia and the perspective here, what is the likelihood that your presence here, it's a bit of a provocative question, okay? To what extent is it PR and to what extent is it possible?
For who?
For everyone. That it would happen, for us, that it would happen.
So first of all, so for me it's not PR at all because I can be anywhere else. Again, when everybody involved wants to make this happen. Is it going to happen? No idea. I'm not a politician, seriously, and the way we work is completely different. So we try to be as transparent as possible. All I can say is we want to make this happen. These are the ideas. We want your support. If you like the project, we want you to go out and explain people and make them understand how it works. We want your input because we want to build it in the right way. There's a huge, I think, interest in general, right? And it's not about money, right? So it's really just about support. And what I can say so far from what we have found in Slovakia, besides great young people that are working in the ministry and are really trying to, they went outside, they went to America, they went to other countries and came back to Slovakia because they want to change the country. But even everybody from all the ministers that I have met so far, they're all super supportive and for one reason or another think that this is, the right thing to do and obviously want to, make Slovakia one of the important countries when we talk about innovation. So it's, at the end, there's going to be, Austria, obviously, we're talking with them. But I think Slovakia still holds the lead, and we, I wouldn't be here because I can be, I can sign tomorrow in China if I want to build it really there. So I'm European. I think that as a European, we have some of the best engineers in the world in Europe. The way we work with people that are all over the world. But one of the things that I like to be here is that we can work with people like you that if I would have come here 6 months ago, you would have told me, you would have probably said, yeah, that sounds all great, but it's California, it's like Mars. Like they do weird things in California already. There's like cars driving around by themselves and stuff. Like it seems so far away, but when you're in the center, because we're at the center of Europe here, and it's happening here, then we can bring you in and have you collaborate and have you, and all the great companies that we're having in Germany, in Austria, and in Slovakia collaborate and help us in terms of innovation. Because at the end, that's what it is. We're at like the first step. So we have the first version we can build, but they're just going to build the version 158, right? And we need that innovation coming from you guys. We want your ideas. We want to help you build businesses around this. Okay, we want to incentivize and help an ecosystem, create an ecosystem that solves problems while making money. So I believe in it. If not, I wouldn't be here, and I think everybody else has the same thing.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the answer. Good luck. And thank you for coming. And thank you also, Andre and Muska, for making this happen. So all the best. Thank you all for coming and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Ciao.